Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Dhammāṃ saranang gacchāmi, Sanghaṃ saranang gacchāmi. Dutiyampi Buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Dhammāṃ saranang gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Sanghaṃ saranang gacchāmi. Tatiyampi Buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Dhammāṃ saranang gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Sanghaṃ saranang gacchāmi. So hello everybody, this is Bhante Joe here, and I've been recently traveling around and looking at places to stay in hotter and drier areas. Especially hoping to go up to Ampara and some of these very ancient hot and dry places. And one of the things that I've been thinking about lately is the importance of lifestyle. It's kind of, sometimes we associate with different people, and there's this very important teaching in Buddhism that that you associate with people, you become like them. Basically you should try to associate with people who are superior, not with people who are inferior, they say. Now, of course, kind of learning to judge people as to whether they're superior or inferior is not always something that's so easy to do. I mean, and it's on a higher level, it's not really something that's recommended. Actually, we don't know what karmic seeds we have in the past or other people have in the past. Actually, some animals may be destined to be Buddhas in the future. We don't know, we can't say. So, on a level of, say, like I'm a higher person or a lower person, or a higher type of being or a lower type of being, this is not a useful type of reflection, and it's probably not an accurate one, really. I mean, it's not so easy to judge these kind of things. But the useful type of reflection is, does this person have qualities that are superior to mine or inferior to mine in terms of what I'm hoping to grow in? So in other words, the Buddha's teachings always come back to this search, this kind of wish to develop oneself. And they always center around oneself, essentially, actually. So when we're looking outwards to see what we should get from other people, or looking outwards at other people, it's always through this lens of how can I grow in the Dhamma? In other words, what wholesome qualities, what impressive qualities do they have that I can learn from? So sometimes when people associate, you can sometimes associate with people who are very impressive, very they have a practice or a way of being that is somehow kind of inspiring, or sometimes even awe-inspiring. Actually, you can be around these people, they have this kind of presence to them that's kind of very inspiring, and that's excellent. However, one wants to associate with people not for the feeling that one gets from them, especially this can be the case with senior monks or other monks. It can be extremely impressive, extremely inspiring. Especially, we live in a time now where there's many monks who are practicing, many monks who are keeping the Vinaya, and so there's many monks who have very inspiring, uplifting qualities. However, when we associate with monks, we associate with even people, say, on a level of a lay person, where one sees inspiring people at one's workplace. Our association with them is not to like eat the feeling, kind of say, like eat the feeling of inspiration, just to kind of soak up the feeling of inspiration. The feeling is a nice thing, but our aim in practicing the Buddha's teachings is actually to develop our mind. So these feelings of inspiration, these feelings of uplift, they're very nice things, but they have to be turned towards a purpose. So, in other words, when we meet somebody, when we associate with a senior monk or somebody in our life who we admire, who we respect, our aim in associating with them should be to develop the habits and qualities that they have that lead to the goals that they've achieved. So sometimes I was chatting a little bit the other day about sometimes meet these kind of people and they name drop. Actually, I remember I was at an airport in Thailand once, And when I first came to Thailand, and coming from Canada, being a monk or being a Buddhist is not a famous thing. It's kind of getting more respected now, but certainly it's not something where you would say, I know this monk or I know that monk, and it would have much cachet or any cachet. It's kind of any cachet at all. So I remember I went to Thailand and was sitting in this airport, and this lady came up beside me and she's like, can I get you a drink? And I was like, sure. And then she started talking to me. She's like, do you know Long Por Subin? And I was like, no, I don't know Long Por Subin. She's like, he's my relative. And she could tell she was listing all these different names of these famous monks who actually at that time I didn't know. Later in Thailand I got to know at least one of them, and I think more of the names that she mentioned. But Buddhism being so respected and so highly esteemed there, just knowing or saying you have an association with these monks is enough to boost your own reputation. It's enough to boost your value or your worth in the eyes of other people. However, this kind of thing, associating for the sake, I'm not saying that this lady was associating purely for the sake of name or reputation, but associating with somebody and kind of being in their glow and the inspiration can easily fade, easily shift over into a mind state in which one wants other people to know that one is associated with this inspiring person. So it's at this point that one's association is actually starting to tip away from the path of developing one's own mind and tip into what we call gains, offerings, and fame. Actually, reputation is one of what you might call the main aspects of gains, offerings, and fame. And actually, in Western countries or countries that have a lot of material progress, it's not so much that people are looking to associate or do things for the sake of their basic material needs, which tend to be met like basically everywhere in society. Actually, the thing that people really want is reputation. They want status. They want to look good in the eyes of other people. They want to be impressive, esteemed in the eyes of other people. I mean, you have kind of a Mercedes-Benz or a Toyota, but you have a 100-mile or 100-kilometer-an-hour speed limit on the highway. I mean, it's kind of not that big of a difference going on the highway in one or the other. Kind of a leather seat versus a kind of polyester seat. They're both not, the level of comfort is not that different. So what people are looking for is this kind of reputation. And this reputation has very serious dangers to it. If one associates for this purpose, one develops for this purpose, one's mind shades into desiring to be around a person for their reputation or for this feeling, one is starting to veer away from the path of Dhamma. So one of the best things that one can do when one associates with people one finds inspiring is to actually use this faculty of wisdom. I mean, this faculty, this feeling faculty, what you might call more on the intuitive side, this feeling of uplift is important to spur a person on and to give them joy. It's like food on the path. It kind of keep going. But we always want to try to discern what are the qualities that this person has that I'm trying to develop. What are the good qualities that they have that I need? And what did they do to get them? That's maybe one of the most important questions. So sometimes as well when we associate with people, it's funny, you kind of associate with people who are very inspiring. They have these little mannerisms, kind of everybody has their own little mannerisms. And you'll notice people will sometimes take on the mannerisms of this other person, which is fine, can be a neutral quality. But it wouldn't be those mannerisms that one is trying to copy or develop or imitate. It's going to be the actual practices that that person did, the lifestyle that they undertook that one is trying to copy or develop or imitate. So this might not always be so apparent, actually, at the time when one is associating with them. Because sometimes people will put a lot of effort into their practice, put a lot of, spend a lot of hours meditating, do all the things that are basically recommended there in the suttas. And the suttas are going to be the check sheet for which one establishes what qualities one wants to get from this person, what qualities one wants to imitate in this person. But sometimes when we'll be associating with a person, they won't be it's not like the phase where they were actually actively developing the qualities in which led them to be impressive. So there's a kind of a dichotomy here. There's kind of, maybe not a dichotomy is the right word, but there's a bit of a paradox in that when a person is unknown, when they're not well known, it's usually at that time that they're actually developing the qualities that lead them to be impressive. And those are the qualities that a person wants to get. It's like if you want to be a very big or well-known CEO or a banker or something, it's going to be the time when you were studying and developing the skills. That time, that lifestyle is what leads to that later goal. And in a similar way, in our Dhamma practice, in our practice of the Dhamma, it's the lifestyle, it's the way of practice, it's the hours that a person puts into the practice. Those kind of qualities are the ones that will lead one onwards towards the goal as well. So there's kind of these little mannerisms that a person finds impressive. Those kind of things tend to get spread around in a subculture, little mannerisms, little turns of phrase, and those are fine. But the more important thing is the lifestyle. How is this person living that led them to be impressive? What kind of lifestyle did they undertake? And usually that lifestyle is one that they undertook at a time when they were not famous, not well known, and maybe not even so impressive to other people. There was this story of the biography of Luang Pu Mun, or this thing that he said. He said, when I was, now my fame is spread far and wide. Just paraphrasing here. But at the time when I was practicing, he said, I passed out unconscious 3 times, striving in the face of pain when I was practicing. And he said, nobody knew who I was at that point. He said, now my fame is spread far and wide. But what's the use of that? What's the use of it? So in other words, when one has the goal of developing one's own mind as the paramount thing, then these gains, offerings, and fame, or this feeling, they have very limited use. It's kind of, maybe in some cases, not even really useful at all, something one doesn't want. If one wants to develop one's mind, it's usually in these times when one is not famous, one is not well known, not well recognized, that one has the time, one has the space, one has the resources to put the causes into place to achieve the goals that one wants to achieve. So whenever we go to associate with people that we find inspiring, it's not so important this feeling or this kind of glow that one gets from being around them. The reputation that one gets from being around them is definitely not important. Actually, there's a lot of subtle things that can happen in the mind when one starts to grab onto one's reputation. It really can pull one off of the path. Especially it leads to a kind of conceit, and that conceit leads to complacency. And kind of one basks in the glow of the feeling and the glow of the reputation and does not put in the effort that led to it in the first place. It's actually in this way that things tend to spin around with fame and lack of fame in these 8 worldly winds. So the important thing is the qualities that this person had that led them to these goals. So when we associate with them, we can learn to imitate this. We can learn to ask questions. What lifestyle did they lead? What kind of things did they do that are in line with the suttas that I can take on myself? And in this way, our association with them becomes a means for us to develop our mind, rather than develop our reputation or just bask in feelings. It becomes a means for us to develop those qualities that lead us to see what they saw, lead us to have what they have. If they have this kind of, assurance in the Dhamma, they have this kind of happiness and ease in the Dhamma. This is what we want to get, and it's through putting the qualities into place that we get it. So this is some of the most important reasons that we can associate with others. Okay, so I think leave that for reflection. And wishing everybody all the blessings of Dhamma practice.